everybody. Welcome to the Hart Studio Show. The Hart Studio Show brought to you by the Hart Initiative, which is a nonprofit in the arts. We talk about the business of art, the art of business, about how art heals, and the journey that artists take in their healing process and their expression and their bringing forth of their art and so forth. So I'm Barclay Brown, the host of the show. Let me first welcome Honor Lind, the Executive Director of the Hart Initiative. Good morning, Honor.
Hi, good morning. And Tiffany, we're so delighted to have you here today. I've been following your work for quite some time. We started our conversation a few years ago about sidewalk art and how we can manifest it into more communities. So I've been inspired by you, and I'm delighted to have you here on the show to talk about your heart song and your art journey. So thanks again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us here at the Hart Initiative.
Honor, it is truly my pleasure. And Barclay, I'm so happy to speak with you both today.
Well, we are too. So we're welcoming Tiffani Taylor, our guest today, who's an artist, a brand strategist, a gallery owner, a founder of the Savannah Art Walk. Boy, the list goes on. The atelier coordinator at the Savannah College of Art and Design. We'll get into all these things, as we go, but just by way of intro. She resides between Savannah, Georgia and Paris, France, which of course are two tightly connected cities, very related, right? Perhaps others may not think so. We'll see. She's best known for her rich textured paintings and hand-painted pottery. Tiffani holds advanced degrees in painting and art history from the Savannah College of Art and Design, and opened her gallery in downtown Savannah, and we'll talk about that one as well. And launched her lifestyle collection now, in 2013, quite a few years ago. So we're going to be interested to hear about that. Tiffani's work is shown in galleries internationally, including the Salvador Dali Museum, collections of Andre Leon Talley, designer Diane von Furstenberg, Pierre Cardin, Oprah Winfrey, the SCAD president Paula Wallace, all over the place, right? Everyone's got your art. We need more of it, right? It's awesome. And as well as the Hilton Savannah DeSoto. So there, public display right there in downtown Savannah. So Tiffani, welcome. And I guess let's just sort of jump right in here. So I'm interested in a whole bunch of things, but I want to start with this. This is kind of jumping in the middle, okay? But as you think about art and artists, there's kind of stereotypes that float around about artists, right? So one is the starving artist, the artist who toils away in obscurity, and maybe their art isn't even discovered before they're long gone from this earth, and and they're struggling while they're doing art here on this earth. So that's kind of this starving artist, stereotype, right? And then there's another kind of artist who is the so-called commercial artist, someone who just does art to sell, right? So that they can make their living, and they do to make a living is they do art, and they're thought of a certain way, right? Now, so I want to get your thoughts on this. I don't think you fit in either of those. So maybe you sort of break these molds or have invented your own pattern and that sort of thing. So do you have some sort of middle way, or can you say more about that?
Well, first and foremost, every day I love dispelling the myth of the starving artist.
Great.
It is not romantic to starve. I come from very humble beginnings, which is, I think, how and why I authentically created my brand, because I respect my time and energy and also the training that I have. When we think of those two as being like on opposite sides of a paradigm, really what I noticed is that you had artists such as Monet, and as I went to museums, I saw how museums were creating products of fine art. And as printing capabilities became available to us, where you don't have to order a minimum quantity and all artists can create their own products, I suggest that we all create our own products, and that we don't wait until after our death where somebody else is profiting off of our copyright. And so I look forward to discussing more with you about what rights we have as artists for creating our own collections, and just how beautifully the two work together. For example, I've had patrons who have come in and bought a coffee mug, and then a few months later bought a $10,000 painting. And so I would love to, talk more about that, the way that we as artists can exhaust our copyright for licensing opportunities and our own printing capabilities.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And it's such an interesting theme. art and commercialism, right? And so as I was preparing for this, I thought of this kind of question and say, well, where is all this going? Should I expect to see Tiffany Taylor pillows, on the racks in Walmart one day? And I thought, it's kind of a little edgy question, because like does that sort of cheapen the art? But then I said, no, wait a minute. If I walk into Walmart today, I'm probably going to find Salvador Dali pillows. I'm going to find great artists with their artwork on pillows. So why not, right? Like, why not make it popular?
Yes, and licensing is very interesting, and having been in the licensing world for a long time, I have found that it's more lucrative and you have more creative control when we produce our own products and have them on for sale on our own sites, such as Etsy or our own website, connecting Instagram and Facebook for marketing purposes. To answer your question, if the deal is right, I lead my life with a very open heart. So if Walmart approached me and they wanted to do a Tiffani Taylor collection, my bigger purpose is bringing joy and beauty. And so if it's going to reach more homes and inspire more people, then that is where I would say yes.
That's great. I think that can help a lot of artists, because some artists might sort of react to that idea like, oh, well, I don't want my art in Walmart. And Tiffani Taylor, who is possibly a better artist than they are, is saying, no, I want my art where it's going to make the most impact, where the most people are going to enjoy it and benefit from it and be inspired by it. So
yes.
And
there's also this idea, there's this really important concept and like basic humanity where as artists, we all deserve to have food and shelter and to live beautifully, to be peaceful. And so I think that having an open mind and heart to the ways that you as an artist are comfortable in expanding streams of revenue is so important, whether that means in addition to your fine art on walls, that you paint murals, that you create a lifestyle collection, or creating prints. I wish that I had created prints 20 years ago, but I've only done so for the past 5 years. And that's a beautiful way for everyone to be able to afford your art. So, when we talk about being an artist as well, I always encourage those that I mentor and lecture to that it's not everything to be a full-time artist. It's okay to have multiple streams of revenue. It's okay to have health insurance. I know that for years I've, purchased my own healthcare plans, but if you have a vocation that provides that, and then, a day a week you're painting, an artist is an artist. I don't think it has to be so black and white in thinking. I think there are all these beautiful hues in between that you can create the life that you imagined. And anything that I shared today, maybe you can take nuggets and pieces of it, to contribute to your patchwork quilt of your life, to create a life where you're okay.
It's really interesting that it's as I look at this, it seems like our normal walking around paradigm is that there are everyday objects, there are things that we use, there's kind of functional things in our lives and our homes and so forth. And then there's art, right? And it's like two separate things. And the art, oh, that's the special thing that's hanging on the wall, and all it's doing is being art. And then there's the functional stuff that I'm using to do things. And it seems like some of your products try to mix that and say that's an artificial division. We can have art in our everyday things. Is that right?
Yes, you articulated it so beautifully. And when I noticed the shift, it was really after the Great Recession, where no longer do we have room for inauthenticity. We all sense authenticity and we don't have room for anything else. And that includes the products that we buy for our home, our office space, for our lives. And that really propelled the lifestyle collection forward. And so I looked at things that I needed, such as when I bought an iPhone cover, I'm a nerd, I need 500 clipboards. Bags that were great for travel that would hold a sketchbook and a laptop. And so really looking at the marriage of art and utility.
That's great. I've over the years, I've collected pens of various kinds, right? And I saw a saying once in the pen collecting world that said, life is too short to carry an ugly pen, right?
Amen.
So it's the same idea.
Anything ugly.
let's
Amen.
find beauty in the things that we use. And so why not surround ourselves with the beauty of art?
Absolutely, in every facet. Art carries energy, imagery, words. It carries energy and it influences our day, from the coffee cup we wake up with to the things that we use for mobility. It's all encompassing. And as far as possible, I do believe everything should be beautiful and inspiring and affordable. And that's why the lifestyle collection was important to me as a person who grew up, I come from a very humble but loving beginnings. And I wanted to create a space and a presence where everyone is loved, welcomed, accepted, and that everybody would feel comfortable, even if it's an energy exchange of just gratitude or words of affirmation. It's not always about purchase, patronage, but that as a little girl, if I came in here with my grandfather, he could have bought me a note card set or some postcards or, the art and poetry book as a budding artist. And so I think about that, and just this overall view of art is for everyone.
Well, this seems to be the busting false dualism interview here for some reason. So I'll give you one more. And that is that there could be this perception on the part of people who maybe do art as a pastime or a hobby or some, kind of it's maybe a small part of their lives, right? That they think, okay, there's real art and real artists, who have their art in galleries and all this. And then there's, me, who I just do a little bit of art and so forth. And that seems like another false dualism from what you're saying, right? Is that everyone can do art, and I can buy the Salvador Dali or the Tiffani Taylor mug, or why don't I create some art, whatever that is, and put it on my own coffee mug, to enjoy, or something like that. Am I kind of tracking with what you're saying there?
Absolutely. And the fact that an artist is an artist, and as we were just discussing, whatever capacity you create art, whether it's a day a week or all week, an artist is an artist. And I say that to honor the creative in all of us.
Exactly. No, that's inspiring. And it's inspiring to see a very accomplished artist who is also trying to be inspiring, and others trying to inspire other artists as well. And that's fantastic. So let me go back just in terms of background. So you've written that you started doing art at age 2. That's relatively early. So tell us about what kind of art you were doing then and how that led to where you are now.
Well, in my baby book, my mom has taped these little recipe cards where I would draw a man or Bert and Ernie at 18 months old. And she also wrote stories about me when I was little, and that I would throw Barbie dolls. Like, she loves Barbies, my mother. And she was mortified. I only wanted, at such a tender age, I wanted pens, paper. I wanted a microscope. I think art and science are so linked. And so my journey as an artist began very young. And, I think I know I'm incredibly blessed because my family believed in me. And even though we did not have the financial means, for support, they just showered me with this unconditional love and immersed me in nature. And, even though we were very poor, my mom made sure that I had the erasable crayons. And my grandfather brought home every coloring contest from the supermarkets and the newspaper. And they just supported and encouraged. And I think having encouragement is worth more than gold.
It's so important and so interesting, because you think, well, some people have advantages, right, based on their upbringing and resources and so forth. But you're saying the most important resources that made you who you are were not financially related. They were spiritual. They were the love and the encouragement and the little things, right? I picked up on another theme in some of the writings by you and about you, and so maybe you can amplify this a bit. That life is complicated and messy, and in a way, art can be sort of a way to make sense of it for yourself in a person. That there's sort of even if I don't even share my art, maybe nobody ever sees it, but is it a way that it can sort of help me make sense of my messy world that we all seem to experience that way?
Yes, art is incredibly cathartic, and I think art has saved many, many lives. It's a way of processing, it's a way of releasing, it's a way of being present and honoring, whether it's nature or a person, it's spending time with yourself. From stream of conscious poetry to mark making on paper, I know the art has saved, my life. It's been incredibly important to my mental health, my spiritual journey. I can look at paintings and remember how I felt in that moment when they were created.
I really appreciate you sharing that. One of the premises of Hart is the healing power of art. And we encourage everyone to explore the creative aspects within and define their art language, whether that's working in found objects or working in metal or working in poetry or songwriting. So I really appreciate you sharing the cathartic aspects of art. And if I can ask, I do remember reading I was so inspired and compelled. You did if you don't mind talking, if it's okay for you to talk about, you did a beautiful commission piece for the nurses and hospitals, and not to jump into the interpretation of it so quickly, but what I found so just awe was you were able to incorporate some pieces into that narrative that embarked and embraced how art literally became a visual narrative of what we just went through during the time of COVID, not to make this interview about COVID, but really how the art became an expression. You were able to layer interpretations. Can you talk about that just for a moment, if you don't mind?
I would love to. And you just inspired me to remember one of my favorite quotes by Tolstoy, that art is not a handicraft. It's the transmission of feeling the artist has experienced. And in this case, we were able to take essential workers, those who were on the front line, and they were able to release and to share their feelings and their thoughts about this time that we've gone through, when really none of us have even been able to, I think, fully process, because we've all been in a state of fight or flight. And so it's this visual time capsule of raw emotion, unity, and those were the messages: unity and hope and faith, and to honor the words of our frontline healthcare workers, and just to connect them with branches of cherry blossoms, which are symbolic of hope, and then bluebirds of happiness for, one of my sayings is hope on the horizon, hope, always hope on the horizon. And so I think it was very helpful, and it's been helpful for me throughout my life as a mantra to always keep my eyes forward focused on the Lord, on the hopeful horizon, even in the depths of despair, even when you feel like you're tumbling backwards. So really it was a project about forward vision and just coming together as human beings. And, what a time of humanity and vulnerability.
Excellent.
It was so well executed. So thank you on behalf of the community. And I look forward to seeing it in person. And so thank you for sharing that story. I appreciate that very much.
There's two other things I want to touch on before we get into some of the kind of the tour and kind of the things that we want you to share from your work and your gallery. In fact, one is the Art Walk in Savannah. So this is a phenomenal event, went on for a number of years. And can you just tell us a little bit about, what was the purpose of that, and also how, would you recommend other people, trying this? I mean, what did it accomplish, and what was that whole thing like for you?
Savannah Art Walk was inspired after a resurfacing upon building this gallery space. We're celebrating 10 years at the 11 Whitaker location, and it took every ounce of energy. And once things were humming, I surfaced and I had lost touch with other artists. I wanted to know, what are you creating? More so function as a guild. I went back to my master's in art history and I thought, we're more powerful together, and all of our art is so different. let's come together, support each other, and become a beacon of art and light in Savannah, where we are known as the premier destination for art collectors. And so we celebrated our 6 seasons of Art Walk, and we look forward to resuming this coming year. I love what you said, what you asked, if others should form these type of events. And yes, the more people who come together and support each other with the same intent. One of our requirements to participate in Savannah Art Walk is positive energy. So there's no naysaying, no negative energy, because we're all here to support each other and we all shine brighter together. And what you can create is someone who wants to put on this type of event. You can create synergy in your art community where you increase patronage, you increase exposure, you create this opportunity for the community and for visitors of your city to engage with art. And then the overall feeling of well-being for your community and for the world. Because really when artists come together, like we are the visionaries, we are the mirrors for what is occurring socio-politically, we are that. And so when we can come together, when that can be organized, and our give back, and then also the increase of patronage, it's a win-win for everyone. Artists cannot go forward without patronage.
Excellent. That's amazing. I want to call you the Gandhi of art. Okay. I don't know if anybody's ever thought of that.
Shivers.
Just sort of struck me, you know.
God bless you. Thank you.
That's awesome.
So,
maybe like a tiny pin drop somewhere, but now I have something to aspire to be.
yeah, but just because you bring that sort of feel to it, and also the outreach, because you're also not passive. You know, it's spirituality doesn't have to be passive. You know, you picture someone like Jesus turning over the tables of the money changers and saying, no, not this way, you know. And so, all right. So there's one thing I did want to focus in on, and that is your role with SCAD. Now you have degrees from SCAD, but you have a role also as the alumni atelier. And while of course this interview is based on your thoughts and your ideas, you're not speaking for SCAD, of course, here, right? But tell us about what is an atelier and what do you do and what's that all about?
So I think it's important for me more so to focus on, you know, my degrees and how they've inspired my path, because, you know, I wouldn't even be in Savannah without SCAD. So when I was 17 years old, I saw a poster for the university and, you know, again, humble roots. I'm in my Gap overalls. I've been like painting murals. I've been studying to get a high ACT score for scholarships. And I saw this poster and viscerally, I knew it was home. I knew it was home. I felt the positive energy that the university founder and president and her family, like I felt it viscerally. And so I spoke with my art teachers and they told me, Tiffani, this is the place you have to go. And so I worked from that point forward on attaining scholarships, you know, and I received scholarships from multiple, like Utah State University and BYU. And I wrote to the president and I'm like, this is the place I have to go. And with great gratitude, I received a presidential scholarship. And throughout my SCAD journey, that gratitude guides so much. And because without that scholarship help, I never could have made manifest my dreams. And so you have that foundational professional practices. So at SCAD, I learned not only how to be an artist methodically and when the muses speak, to be able to utilize any and all materials, but also the business foundations of becoming an LLC, having a website, a business card, and just that authenticity in collaboration. And so really, you know, collaboration is so important. And I think as artists, we are very secular. And I know that I could be happy as a little monastic artist in my studio, never leaving. But in the end, that would not be healthy. And so when we open up our heart and ourselves to others and collaborate and help one another, it just creates this energy that is so much bigger than ourselves. And, you know, after my bachelor's, well, during my bachelor's, I formed my LLC. I sold my first paintings off my bike and, you know, had my first art show at Midnight Star Pottery where I taught people to paint pottery. And I had a vision at that time that I wanted to create a scholarship fund because I was so happy and so grateful and living on $2 a day, riding a bike. You know, I couldn't afford a car until my third year. And I had a vision though. I'm like, I want somebody else to have this experience. And so I started to see the Tiffani Taylor Endowed Scholarship that time. And now we have this endowed scholarship that awards, it's all housed and endowed at SCAD. But each year a painter receives up to $2,000 for supplies based on the interest of the endowment, so that their seniors show they are set up for success to showcase their work with the world. And, you know, just helping others is happiness. Helping
It's
others
true.
is happiness, period. And you see that through collaboration. You see that in as much as you can do to even affirm somebody. And then, you know, recently, because I'm ambitious and you know, I was in Paris, I had received President Wallace's endowment of Alumni Atelier, and it opened up the world of international patronage. And then, of course, you know, I went and got an apartment in Paris and ended up teaching art and marketing. And as a professor, I felt joy and fear because I was teaching 58 students from all over the world. They're masters of business in the arts who would then go on to work at the Louvre, Musée d'Orsay, in the UK, where, you know, a lot of the big art movements are happening. And I wrote to President Wallace and I said, I have to come back. I need a third degree because to teach at the collegiate level in the US, I have to have an MFA. So last year I graduated with that third terminal degree.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sister.
Wow.
Hallelujah. I mean, I did not sleep much these past, it took 3 years, and in combination with Savannah Art Walk, the gallery.
That's amazing.
Oh, I'm so
Amazing.
grateful that I have that piece of paper.
I got a piece of paper like that, and I know what a master's degree entails. And yes,
Blood, sweat, and tears.
yes, blood, sweat, and tears.
Exactly.
And so I applaud you because you were also running
I
this
applaud
gallery.
you. It's like,
Your gal and sidewalk art during a pandemic, nonetheless. And
nonetheless,
your
virtual.
career. Amazing.
You know, all of us transitioning virtual, you know, we can talk about that in terms of education, in terms of business, but overall, there was a silver lining, I think, to this time that was so brutal and felt deeply and even more so by, and on different levels, by different souls. But there was this increased globalization. And I think globalization is such an important thing to speak about as artists, because I first started hearing about it in about 2002 as we looked at opportunities for artists to be immersed in, for example, in Japan. And so what we saw with this time of virtuality, I don't know if that's a word, I'm gonna be honest, I'm very humble, don't know. But
I like it.
We saw this increase in reach that was so beautiful where, you know, even my virtual MFA thesis, I had people join this art opening from all over the world. And without this time period and the necessity to utilize technology, the art opening would have been limited to the people who could physically attend. And so I think as artists, as we go forward, as entrepreneurs, because to be an artist is to be an entrepreneur, is to look at continuing that and utilizing technological advancements, whether it's in printing, websites, social media, YouTube, virtual receptions, live Instagram. There are so many things available to us. And the best part is that they're free. And so we no longer are at the mercy of a gallerist or of an agent. All artists have these tools at our fingertips. It's just important that we, you know, at whatever level you can meet this technology with an open heart and embrace the aspects that you're comfortable with, because you really do have the power. There's never been a better time to be an artist.
Agreed.
I think this is perfect and a great segue, in fact, to maybe give you a chance to, if you'd like to show us some things and kind of say more what you would like to say to artists. You've made a big part of your life sort of giving back, right? Giving back your knowledge and your expertise and trying to share and trying to inspire others. So you can share that with us whatever way you like, show some things or explain some things or however you'd like to go.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your patience as I tangent run. As you can tell, I'm very passionate. And one thing that you just inspired me to share is I think it's so important for every artist to know the Copyright Act of 1976. It's a simple page. You can Google it right now. But what it's going to share with you is that as artists, when you create, you have a natural copyright. And that as that copyright owner, even when you sell a piece of art, you retain that copyright unless it's a work for hire, and that language would have to be included. And then the person who does the work for hire would have that copyright. But when you sell a piece of artwork, you retain that copyright, you have the high-res image, you can then create derivatives, and that is described in that Copyright Act. So for example, from one painting that sells, you can still create the coffee mug, the note cards, the print. You can also, as part of that derivative, you can license that image to a larger entity, such as you mentioned, Walmart, or any larger entity. And I didn't really know my rights as an artist until my MFA, when I took a business complexities course. I'd always just kind of piecemeal, but there is so much power in knowing our rights as artists. And so I think prior to that, somebody's like, I don't know, somebody bought the painting. That's it, it's gone. But no, you can create these multiple streams of revenue from your hard work and your vision.
Excellent.
Yes. So I'd love to. Yes.
I do have a question. If you could take a moment, because of this very issue amongst my art friends who are either instructors or teachers, or they've all built these communities that people pay memberships to, and a few of my friends are very successful. But what is happening is some of the students are taking those template studies and reproducing it as their original. And then also on Instagram, a lot of artists' work is being, I guess, for lack of a better word, taken and reproduced in other markets. How can they, do you have any suggestions that they can simply trademark it? Is it by signature, or somehow saying before they start teaching in the recording, this is our original artwork, we hope it inspires you, it's not for resale? I mean, do you have maybe just a short solution or a suggestion that they can use?
Well, the first thing I think of, because I have taught painting courses and my students will utilize the techniques and they, will showcase that work as their own, is that I think anybody who is in the position to be a teacher has made it. And so their work is their work, and people will always seek them out for that work. And that I know I can only speak for myself as an educator, but that what I give freely in regards to tutorials. So I do not feel a need to have ownership over that. If there is a concern, and it sounds like it has become a problem, I would have you can find templates online, and or you can speak with a lawyer to create a disclaimer, a form of that clearly states you as an educator, as an instructor, what your expectations are, and that, the example you used of the template being sold, and that it could specifically state that this is for educational purposes only.
Good idea.
But I would definitely just include language, because a lot of times I think it's from innocence.
It is.
That maybe
it totally is.
Would cross that line that the educator wasn't comfortable with. So if things are clearly stated and communicated, it's so important as artists to take the energy and time to communicate, because we're so visual. Sometimes it's hard to verbally and like in written format communicate. But I would take time to create a form. Absolutely. And then there was one other thing. There was another aspect of what you asked that I thought was really
So when
important.
Instagram, sometimes artists' work is taken and reproduced without their permission.
Yes, that's an issue. And that's when you involve legal.
Okay.
When you have people, especially anybody who takes your image and puts it on product or is selling it, that's when you involve an attorney. And I would recommend getting an attorney who will work based on the outcome. So they would get a percentage of what the outcome is. But listen, like, it is nothing to mess with. Intellectual property is nothing to mess with. And I think as artists, we need to, what I have learned after 41 years on this earth is knowing when it's worth creating a battle over it. Right. And when it's worth just ignoring it and letting it go away. And the difference is if it's a big time vendor or somebody who is grossly abusing your images. And that's when I would involve a criminal attorney or a lawyer specializing in IP.
Excellent insight and exactly what our viewers and readers need to learn. And so thank you. I appreciate that so much. Yes. And with that said, I invited you and was hoping that you would showcase your gallery and your inspiration behind your work and the stories behind your work, but more importantly, the others that you have involved and how you've created this beautiful life work that everyone can, I mean, I own coffee mugs, I own bags, I own calendars, and I love having Tiffani Taylor's artwork surround me. It does have positive energy and it makes my day better. So
thank you, sister.
So if you can, big fan. So if you could now, you know, take us on a tour or talk about your work now, I'd love to hear more.
Oh, absolutely. And before I forget, I wanted to mention one last thing that I found helpful in regards to intellectual property. If ever you are signing a licensing agreement, you want to make sure that they list the works that you are licensing to them, that they don't leave it open-ended. And then also if there's any question that you have, I mean, of course, it's preferable to talk to a lawyer, but if you cannot do so, I just recommend adding an addendum or having them put in verbiage that the artist retains the intellectual property. It should be stated within the contract.
I'm taking
notes. And without further ado, now let's talk about art and magic and all the things that are wonderful. So I'll take you on a tour of the gallery. Let me know at any time if it cuts out or if you have trouble hearing me, but I'm going to go ahead and flip the camera.
Talking about the magic of technology. Here it is. No, that looks fine.
I love it.
Sometimes I love technology. Sometimes. So basically you could see here, you know, we've had the gallery for 10 years and I use the royal we because I'm a sole corporation. But I'm going to, let's see, I'll start outside. So we're located in downtown. You can see cargo ships. We have our little sign.
I love it. It's just magic.
It's a little magic. I wish a cargo ship had been coming by at that time.
Oh, I know. The other I saw that.
And you could just see how, I mean, it's really a patchwork quilt of my journey. Everything from my Wyoming and Utah roots to my years spent in Paris. And then you also have the energy of the other artists that I exhibit.
Right.
And so this exhibition on this main wall is entitled Love Letters to Savannah. And it is the work of 3 artists, myself, Sally Mayer Seidel, Melissa Schneider.
Oh, beautiful.
Melissa creates encaustic pieces and Sally is this Renaissance woman who creates beautiful oil depictions of the ephemeral, the thin veil between us and the afterlife. And so you have this exhibition of the 3 of our works. It was curated in celebration of the 10-year anniversary of the gallery. Like, for example, those are
our three interpretations of Bonaventure and the angel.
They're just gorgeous in person, just gorgeous.
But yes, it's this little sanctuary. And, you know, I spoke about my first job at the pottery shop. So I continue to paint pottery, and the women who owned the shop actually still fire my pottery. So they have fired my pottery for almost 20 years.
Wow.
And then the lifestyle collection, you know, we have, for example, the blankets, and we have pillows.
There's the pillows, Barkley.
That might one day be at Walmart. And the plush, I love art that's cozy and huggable and comfortable. And then we have like some smaller prints that retail for $25 each. And then we have, you know, our larger scale prints that are at a $300 and below price point, so that we really want to have art that is available at different price points. And I recommend that to all artists. This is our G Clay collection. So these are stretched canvas prints of paintings that have sold. Little Talmadge Bridge. So we have, you know, several different sizes. And then in, you know, the lifestyle collection, I needed a wine tote with a corkscrew. So voila. And then we have, of course, like the cutting boards. They're very popular because they also function as, you know, beautiful pieces of art that people can display and or use for charcuterie, etc.
Oh, look at that.
And our, you know, our puzzle collection helped us survive the pandemic. We increased online sales by 1,600% with our puzzle collection and our masks. And what inspired that was that I had read an article that you should always give your patrons things that they need. And during the pandemic, we needed puzzles. And then here we have like the baby collection.
I hadn't seen that one yet. Oh, that's adorable.
Yes, like little beanie babies and bibs, and then of course juxtaposed with our fine art pieces. We have the tea towel collection and the accessory bags. I would like to go ahead, let's see. Well, I'm going to share this. This is a recent commission. And so it's a Paris flower market where we incorporated like special family ephemera throughout the piece. I love her. She was like a famous violinist, and like just the handwriting, and it's just all sacred ephemera. I would love to share my vendors with you all, and there's my very large deer that I call my self-portrait. So she's right here as well.
I saw your self-portrait. It may have been your Masters of Fine Art thesis presentation. I watched one of your video presentations where you were talking about that particular piece and the deer and your mom and the and it was so beautiful. I love learning the stories of the artwork. The artwork itself is standalone, gorgeous, but to learn the backstories and the inspiration behind it. And I thoroughly enjoyed watching you present, because I learned so much more about what went into your artwork and the story narrative, which created a whole nother meaning to viewing your pieces. So thank you for sharing that, and your beautiful gallery. And you definitely embody what you have talked about, which is making art accessible to all with multiple streams, but inspiring others through your art and your art story. So again, thank you for all the tips and business points of view that we can now take with us and journey on in our own art business. So Barkley.
So I have one other thing to explore maybe as we kind of wrap up here. So what you've accomplished, of course, is amazing, and anybody looking at this and looking at your gallery is going to be amazed, and that's nice. It's nice for people to be amazed, but I think you want more than that, right? You don't want them to just be amazed. You want them to actually be inspired to act. So my question is, let's imagine an artist who has been doing art a while. Maybe it's not very exposed to a lot of other people, but their friends and family see it and they say, oh, this is wonderful, you should really do something, those kinds of things, right? So they're getting little bits of encouragement and they see Tiffani Taylor. What would you say about how they should get started? What are their first steps, their initial steps to kind of taking this larger journey?
So Barclay, I'm not sure if you heard me, but right when you started asking me the question, it was frozen. I apologize, but would you graciously
did it cut out?
re-ask?
I saw it freeze and I didn't know if it did that. And we can maybe cleverly cut this out of the final interview anyway. So all right, let me just start over with the question.
Yay, technology.
Sometimes we like you, technology.
Sometimes we like it.
So I do have one more question here, kind of on the heels of everything we've looked at. And it's easy for people to look at Tiffani Taylor and see the gallery and all the accomplishments and the degrees and so forth and say, wow, I'm amazed. And amazement is nice. It's nice for people to be amazed. But I think you want more than that, right? You want people to be somehow inspired, kind of motivated, right? And kind of to pursue something like this. So let's take a person who's an artist, right? And they're toiling in obscurity, as it were, right? They're doing art in their home and maybe their friends and family are looking at it and saying, oh, this is great. You should really do something with this, so they're getting some kind of positive feedback and so forth. But yet so my question is, how do they get started? What would be some of the first things they would do to kind of start down this road to expansion?
I think the most important thing, and I'm sure what would be resonating with their family members and friends who are encouraging them, is the authenticity of their story. And so first and foremost, anybody starting out, don't try to be like anybody but you. Paint your story and who you are, the sense, sounds, the imagery of your childhood. Like, always create from a place of authenticity. And honestly, Honor, that might be something too that other educators can share, that we're here to give you tools and techniques, but in the end, it's important for you to share your story. And so everything starts with that. And that's like everything else I'm going to describe is the tip of the iceberg. Everything below, that's that authenticity. And so important before you do anything else, before you market, etc., is to really, create from that space of authenticity, your truth, your story. And then I just would recommend utilizing the technology that's so easily available to us, such as Facebook, and to actually have a Facebook page devoted to your art and to link that page to your Instagram. And so really what I have found to be easiest is you can take a photo of the painting that you're working on, found object, your art, take a photograph, describe it on Instagram, use a hashtag generator that are free. You just Google hashtag generator to know which hashtags to use so that people who are part of your tribe, people who are inspired by the same things can find your art by these hashtags. And that once you post to Facebook or to Instagram, you can hit a button where it will also go to Facebook. So you accomplish a lot in one action. And so I recommend starting there. And then in regards, I'm often asked about pricing. And so as you start out, look at what the materials cost, how much time did it take you, and how much do you want to be compensated for your time? And so, for example, if it's $100 of materials and you spent 10 hours and you want to be compensated $10 an hour, then you would charge $200. And I sold my first paintings for $50. I recommend, I'm not saying you should charge $10 an hour. It was easier for me to do the math, to be honest. But you can always raise your prices. And so if you start lower, once you start selling frequently and you start to feel a little stressed, it's time to raise your prices. And so at that time, I recommend raising them at least 10%. And what I'm also sharing with you by creating this kind of structure around pricing is that once you get confident about and feel good about how much a work sold for, what I would encourage you to do is to look at what that piece, what you charge per square inch. So this is after you've used the formula of time and supplies, and then to look at what that price per square inch was, and then to actually go forward with that as your model for pricing. And so if somebody wants to commission a 30 by 40 inch painting, you know what makes you feel valued and fairly compensated, and you can utilize that per square inch model. And with commissions, we always charge an additional 10% because it's more of a collaboration between two parties. But that would be like 42 years of experience wrapped up into a little soundbite.
Well, that's perfect.
It was perfect.
I mean, the kind of the math appeals to the engineer in me. Like, okay, this is something we can reduce to sort of calculation, and there's an element of that, right? And mixing
you
that then
have
with
to,
the creative.
because I mean, emotionality. You know, if we go based off of emotions, I'd be like, that painting is $5 billion. This one, it was a hard time. You can have it. You know,
Right.
like,
Sure. That was
Excellent.
excellent.
structure.
I was
Well,
thinking-
so just Honor, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that was excellent sound bites and advice, and exactly what we're looking for to help artists, not only to help the community heal through art, but to help artists turn their passion and learn the foundation of how to jumpstart and turn their passion into profit. And so we are here to help artists and heal the community through art. So thank you for those advice and tidbits, because that's exactly what we're looking for.
Oh my goodness, it's my pleasure. And I'm sorry, just 1 second. Thank you. It's so funny, but that was my alarm to myself that I have to open the gallery or else I have to fire myself. But it keeps
Okay,
going
so
off.
last
I'm sorry
last
to
quick
interrupt
question
this.
then. For people to get in touch with you or find out more about you, is
Just
there
to
a
wrap up.
website, or just kind of give us
I
give
would
us that?
love for people to find me via Instagram.
Okay.
And my Instagram is Tiffani Taylor SAV. So you just have Tiffani Taylor SAV. It is Tiffani with an I. And if you'll share that and a link to my website and Facebook when you post this interview, I would greatly appreciate it.
Okay,
Yeah.
will do.
And I just wanted to say thank you. I see you, I hear, and the holistic approach that you're taking, this globalized approach. I'm so proud of you, Honor. Barkley, this is fantastic. Hashtag keep going. So
Keep
good.
going. Well, I have some new
Fantastic.
announcements coming that are very positive that just solidified right before this interview, and a new partnership of collaboration with another nonprofit. So, so we'll
So
announce
that announcement coming soon. So Tiffani
you'll
Taylor,
be-
thank
you'll
you.
be very happy.
I'm so proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank
Email
you,
me
and you
details.
too.
I'm a vault. I won't tell anyone. I'm a vault. Email them. Okay.
I'll
Thank you
announce it
both
on
so
Facebook.
much.
But we want you to get your gallery open at 11 a.m. And thank you so much for your time today. It's always
Thank
a
you.
pleasure and always just inspires and makes my day. So thank you, Tiffany.
Gratitude and blessings always. Thank you both.
All right, thank you. And we'll wrap it up there for the Hart Studio and the Hart Initiative. This is Barkley Brown, the host, with Honor Lind, Executive Director of the Hart Initiative, and we'll see you in the next show.
Thank
Au
you.
revoir. Bye.
Bye.